All right, hello and welcome to another Expert Insight interview. My name is John Golden from SalesPOP, online sales magazine and Pipeliner CRM, joining you as usual from sunny San Diego. And today I'm delighted to be joined from across the other side of the country in Delaware by Rich Kahn. How you doing, Rich?
Good. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rich Kahn, you're a digital marketing veteran, serial entrepreneur, over 31 years experience in the industry, co-founder and CEO of ezanga.com and Anura.io. You've established yourself as a leading expert in digital advertising and ad fraud prevention. A journey you began in 1993, and you built five multi-million dollar internet companies through bootstrapping. And what we're going to talk today about um is digital advertising, right? So there's an estimate like that ad frauds costing the industry 100 billion annually. How has this problem evolved? I mean, you've been in digital marketing since the early days. So how has this problem evolved, and what's at the root of it?
Yeah, it's expanding very rapidly. I did a talk a while ago, and I actually went through any article I can find, any place that I can trust that was given actual data. And I want to say, like in 2015, 16, 17, you know, ad fraud, as we call it, was humming around $7 or $8 billion in
Mhm.
lost revenue, which is a big number.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, seven, 6, 7, 8 billion a year. In 2024, our conservative estimate was 140 billion.
Yeah.
So it's grown exponentially very quickly. And it's come out because you've got, all kinds of tools that help, people that want to commit fraud. They've got
Mhm.
Fraud GPT. You can just talk to the chat and tell what kind of fraudulent bot you want to build. It'll build it for you. And then you say, how do I deploy it? It'll tell you how to deploy it. So you don't even have to have technical skill anymore to really deploy it. So it's become very big. And there was an article a couple of years ago that estimated the average fraudster makes 5 million a year. And then you take into account there's no US laws that say you can't do it.
Uh,
So it becomes a lawless crime. Now we all know it's stealing, but there's really
mhm.
no law in the book that spells it out, says this is what you're doing. And if you come from overseas,
Yeah.
Interpol doesn't get involved. So again, it's very attractive to the people whose moral compass don't point north.
Yeah. So just for some people who may not be aware, just explain what kind of form this kind of fraud takes, and then we can talk about how do you mitigate.
Sure. So fraud can happen generally through one of three vehicles. Either can happen through a bot, some type of bot, AI bot, something like that. Malware, software installed on your machine, like a plug into your browser, things like that. Or human fraud farms. Last I checked, you can hire human fraud farms from around the globe for about $9 an hour. So this way to get around bot detection, right? Because they're not bots, they're humans.
Yeah.
So those are the three vehicles used to commit fraud, but it's committed in every channel of digital marketing. So
Hmm.
you click networks like Google and Facebook, your native networks like Taboola and Outbrain, programmatic, TV and banners, all that
Hmm.
stuff is latent with fraud. Affiliate marketing, any channel you can think of, there's a layer of fraud that's built into it because people have found a way to basically cheat the system,
Hmm.
make big money without fear.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is so how can companies approach this issue, and how can they mitigate against it?
I used to be able to give like, some basic ideas of things that people could
Yeah.
do. And unfortunately with AI out, there's no basic thing that you can do. I mean, we have a team of developers that are rolling out new updates on a weekly basis just to keep up with it.
Hmm.
So, it's not like back in the day, I would say 10, 15 years ago, people will say, oh, we built our own internal system and it does this, that, and the other thing. You can't do that now. You can't tell the CTO, hey, I need this, fraud detection, go build it on top of everything else you're working on. They just,
Yeah.
you need a team of people, you need a data lake of, massive amounts of data. You need, expertise in the
Hmm.
space. I mean, it's expensive proposition. So it's gotten very, very cost effective to hire a company like us to do it for you because we have access to not just your data, but hundreds of clients' data.
Right.
And in that data pool gives us plenty of things to go find and knock out as fraud.
Mm. And what are some of the things how do you recognize, or how do people start to recognize that maybe they are falling victim to fraud? Like what indicators are obvious?
Well, if you start to see campaign results sway one direction or another,
Hmm.
um, if you start campaigns up that have high click-through rates, low conversion rates, if you get a lot of chargebacks on an e-commerce site, a lot of stolen, like bad credit cards, stolen credit cards. I mean,
Hmm.
you follow the money, you'll follow the problem. Like if you're a if you're generating leads, like an insurance company driving traffic to a page to have people save money on their car insurance and fill out a lead. You call the lead and the person on the phone doesn't know who you are, like they didn't fill out the form.
Hmm.
These are all signs that there's something going on.
Right.
And most people that I talk to, by the time they get to us, they know there's something going on. They're like, Okay, I know something's going on. I can't figure it out. I'm trying to figure it out myself. And I'm done. I read something on your site that talked about blah, blah, but just tell me how to fix it. So what happens is you get a lot of people do a lot of research. So what we've done is we generate several articles a week on the subject. We've
Mhm.
got a lot of ebooks. We've got a comprehensive guide on ad fraud, and we've been writing all kinds of stuff so we educate the environment, so that when you're starting to sniff that there's something going on, we're hopefully we're the resource you find to be able to educate yourself on what's going on. We have some tips and things that you can do to try to minimize it, but at the end of the day, I mean, not to sell our own service, but you really need a third party service to help you solve the
Mhm.
problem.
Yeah. So tell me, then when somebody engages with you, what is it you do? How do you approach this?
The first thing we want to do is scan their network and see if there's
Hmm.
a problem, right? Because I'm a developer.
Hmm.
I've been a bit developer since age 9. I wrote my first game when I was 9, got published when I was 12. So I've been problem solver. That's kind of my mentality.
Right.
So first thing I want to do when I built this company is I want to scan your network for free and make sure there's a problem to solve, right? If there's no problem, like if you really have no fraud, which is rare,
Hmm.
we almost always catch. I mean, I want to say we always catch fraud. I mean, there's always fraud there. But if let's say if you were doing something, you had some type of system built or whatever, using one of our competitors, something going on, and you really had very little fraud or no fraud at all, then there's no problem for me to solve. So there's no sense in working together.
Hmm.
However, almost every single time, I should say, we find people have 10, 15, 20, 30% fraud or more, and their suspicions are confirmed. And now we can talk about how to mitigate it using our tools.
Yeah. So what are so beyond obviously the financial, what are some of the other knock-on effects you have if you don't deal with that fraud?
Well, I mean, it really depends on the industry. Like if you're
Hmm.
okay, I'll use lead generation because right now people just got back from we just had a team come back from San Diego, right in
Hmm.
your neck of the woods,
Yep.
and the show is called Lead Generation World. So it's anybody who's generating leads. So you're talking about schools, insurance companies, medical, lawyer, all the different verticals generate leads at some point. So one of the things is if you generate and on average when we scan somebody's network, we're finding 25% fraud. That's our average scan.
Right.
So if 1 in 4 leads is scanned that's fraudulent, what you're going to find out is one, you get the person on the phone. If you get the person on the phone, they swear up and down they don't know who you are. They didn't fill out the form. They want to know, it becomes a brand reputation issue because now they want to know, hey, where'd you get my information from?
Yeah.
Was it leaked? Was it stolen? That's what they care about. They don't care about what you're trying to sell them. If you call them and they didn't give you express written consent to call them, you now break in TCPA,
Hmm.
which is the fastest growing class action lawsuits in this country. If you have a call center, people who have to pick up the phone and call these people, it costs more to reach somebody who's not expecting your call than somebody who's expecting your call. So there's call
Hmm.
center resource issues. I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff that pop up. These are the kind of signs and symptoms that you'll see as you're coming across fraud, just from the lead generation. Again, every industry is a little bit different, but that's just give you an idea of how it works with lead generation. A lot of companies do lead generation.
Yeah, and so I mean, in some of the examples you gave there, right? So my company suffers brand reputation, maybe even gets a lawsuit against it because it's broken these protocols, but it didn't do it deliberately. But it doesn't matter, right? Your reputation is still broken. You're still liable, for whatever legal actions come up.
Yeah, because let's face it, you might hire a company to drive the traffic into your site to
Mhm.
generate a lead. So they generated the lead, whatever practice they use, but you're the company that picked up and made that phone call. So you're on the hook for TCPA compliance, for pissing people off. Like that's on you because you've got to pick up the phone and make that phone call.
Mm.
So even if you have a company, you hire a company to make those calls for you, you're still representing your company. They're still
Yeah.
at fault. So you got to be careful.
Yeah. So, I mean, often I'm sure you have to make a business case to executives often, like about, why they should invest in this because, people always, they prevent, it's always hard to sell people prevention, right? And that, so what are those conversations like when you engage with organizations and executives in order to persuade them that this is actually a good investment of money?
Sure. So, for example, when we do the scan of the network, and let's say we find our typical
Mhm.
25% fraud, at that point, we have an idea of how many visitors are coming across, and we can do some basic estimates. So, let's just keep it small. Let's say the company is spending $100,000 a month in marketing and they got 25% fraud. That's $25,000 that they're already spending
Mhm.
on fraudulent activity.
Yeah.
That's already there. Whether they want to consider an investment or not, they're losing that 25 grand each month. If we can solve that problem for a fraction of that cost, it's no brainer. There's a simple ROI on our product. Now imagine the guy doing $1 million or $10 million. The ROI goes significantly up. We become, you know, very, very minimal cost to solve the problem. Because,
Mhm.
the more visitors we scan, we charge more, but the
Sure.
cost scale, so it gets less and less per scan. So the ROI goes significantly. That's why we like to focus on the bigger brands, because the ROI there and the case to make it to the financial people is easy.
Mhm. And tell me a little bit about it. Does affiliate marketing is an area where there's a lot of issues, right?
On average, we find 45% of affiliate marketing to be fraudulent. So it's
Wow.
one of the largest areas of fraud, and it's because you're paying someone to do something, right? You're
Mhm.
paying them to drive a lead, drive a click to the site. You're paying them to watch a video. You're paying them to download an app. You're paying them to do something, and when you do that, cheaters find a way to come out and find a way to cheat your system because we even caught this. We had a company that had a high affiliate program. It was a great program that was built out, but the affiliates were using stolen credit cards. And
Mm.
stolen credit cards can sometimes take upwards of 9 months to get reported back to the brand that's driving that traffic. It gets reported, but the channels are just,
Mhm.
some of the e-commerce companies I've talked to, it's upwards of 9 months to get that report back. Meanwhile, this fraudster is still defrauding you day in, day out, getting paid. And then once they get caught and you shut that account down, they've already gotten paid for months
Yeah,
before
yeah,
you actually catch them. So it's weird. Like every area, every corner of the internet is latent with fraud.
yeah. And what are some red flags you can spot with an affiliate?
Um, I'll give you an example. Our software uncovered affiliates, doing IP hopping,
Mm.
where their IP address came from a US location, everything else, everything looked legit. But our software uncovered that it originated from Russia or China or some other foreign land where the fraud was being committed. So we were able to track that down for the client and give him definitive proof of why he should work with that individual source. Um, Again, there's lots of different examples, but that's just a perfect example that just came up last week.
Oh, that's excellent. And we touched on this earlier, but now with AI and that, where do you see this going? Because it just seems like AI is like for all the great things it does. There's so many great things. It's going to be a fraudster's dream, right?
Yeah, because now there was an AI that came out in Q3 last year, and it got around every IVT vendor. When I say IVT vendor, invalid traffic vendor,
Hmm.
it's kind of a general, we call it fraud, we call it ad fraud, but IVT is the term that most people have heard, invalid traffic. And it got around everybody, including us. And we spent, I think, 3 months painstakingly trying to figure out what they did, got it all figured out, wrote the code, thoroughly tested it because we basically our code's protecting billions of dollars a month
Hmm.
in digital marketing spend. And then we rolled out the update, and we've got confirmation from several of our clients we're catching stuff that nobody else is catching. So AI is just going to keep iterating. We figured out a way to get around it for now, but tomorrow's another day, right? So it's a cat and mouse game, and it's just a matter of staying ahead of that scenario. But I think it's going to make it harder and harder. So my question that I always ask people is,
Hmm.
at what point does fraud shut down the internet advertising model across the board? Right? Because if I said
Yeah.
100% of the traffic that you're buying today is fraud,
Hmm.
stop spending the money on
Right.
digital marketing, right? It's a no brainer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But today we say it's about 25%, and people are starting to get tools and work on things. But what if that went to 30%,
Yeah.
40%? What percentage would it take for people to say, "That's it, I'm done with the internet"? It's coming.
No, I mean that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's a very interesting point because, as you said, it's coming, and I mean, how are you go? Yeah, and if you think about it now, they're obviously the LLM, the large language model on all those providers are starting to talk about doing digital advertising within their AI tools as well. So I mean,
Yeah.
now you're actually going to get kind of a perfect storm, nearly.
It's gonna get bad, like I said. Um, and it's gonna in my industry, it's gonna shake out all the weak vendors,
Hmm.
the vendors that can't keep up with the technology and stuff. And there's some good vendors out there, like, my competition, and there's
Hmm.
good vendors out there. But there's a lot more bad vendors, vendors that slap up a quick system just because it's SaaS-based solution. It's very sexy and
Yeah.
a attractive model. They go ahead, they put crappy technology together and they run with it. And they got a good sales team, they'll sell it. Um, but I think the crappy technologies very soon will start to disappear because people will realize it just isn't working.
Yeah, yeah. And so, what does that mean for you in terms of? I mean, as you said, I mean, you're cranking already on trying to keep up with all the developments with AI and stuff. What does this look for you as a business? I mean, you're going to have to stay ahead of this, which is at breakneck speed, right?
Yeah, and that's we've got a process that we built over the years. I mean, I started the first version of this myself in 2005
Hmm.
is when I released the first version of this. So we're now 21 years of development, and I've got a team behind me with a lot of experience, knows what they're doing, and I'll put them up against any team in the industry um, for this type of product. We're doing what we can. Um, I believe we'll always have otherwise I wouldn't have a company. I believe we'll always have the ability to, hey, maybe we missed something. We'll pick it up on the next version. We'll continue to play that cat and mouse game. I don't think that'll ever go away, but it's just, as because you realize as new browsers come out,
Hmm.
you know, they open up security holes
Yeah.
because they put new features in, they change things, they do things, privacy concerns, and things come out that make it easier for fraudsters to get around, and we have to then make sure that our software is ready for that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things is that you talk about privacy and security and stuff like that. I don't think people understand that when it comes to AI. I don't. I mean, obviously, there's you know people that understand it, but generally in organizations, people aren't really discerning between. Well, I put confidential information out into this tool. I didn't privatize it or whatever. I just threw it out there. And so there's a lot of use going on right now where companies don't even have policies around how to use tools.
Yeah, we come across that from time to time, and then we have companies that have all kinds of stuff, and it's like, oh, when it comes to personal identifying
Sure.
information, you can't do this, and it's like we don't touch PII, so we don't have to worry about that. I'm not looking at your name, your email address.
Mhm.
I'm not grabbing that information from your form and stuff like that. I do everything before that happens. So
Mhm.
a lot of times when we get those companies, it's easy to sign off on their policies because we don't touch PII.
Yeah, but I'm just saying from their point of view is like a lot of companies haven't even developed policies around this right now.
True.
They're just letting it go and because they don't really understand
Yeah,
the
yeah, and
parameters.
they're just trying to figure it out. I mean, what was it recent? They just came out with the live chats on these websites. They're feeding their live chat data into these language learning models,
Yep.
and now they're taking all this private information that was happening with the customer and disclosing it. Which we have a live chat on our side, but we didn't trust the ones that were out there, so we wrote our own live chat.
Right.
So all our data stays internal because we don't want any client data. Because let's face it, like if we're having a conversation on a live chat model that some massive brand has a 25% fraud rate, I don't want that out in the open. They don't
Yep.
want that out in the open. We want to
Yep.
keep that stuff private. So we make sure everything we do, we keep everything private for our clients.
Yeah, and that's why, like I said, I think that's going to be a big challenge because people aren't realizing, where this information goes and how it's used and all of that kind of stuff. So it's, there's and on the flip side, obviously, and you come up against this too, is like the data within organizations. They're going to have to do a lot of cleanup on their own data and make sure their own data is secure and as pristine as possible.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, listen, thanks very much, Rich. All of Rich's information will be below this video. But before you go, Rich, please do remind people what you do.
Sure, we're a fraud detection company. We call it IVT, invalid traffic detection. We have a great, it's the internet's only comprehensive guide on ad fraud. You can get it from our website at anura.io, which the link will be below. Or find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. It's the social media of choice for me. I like it because it keeps the politics and all the other garbage off. It's just all about business and good stuff like that. So
Mostly.
I'm a fan of LinkedIn, right? For the most part.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, thanks again, Rich. Thank you for watching and listening, and I will see you all again very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.